Hello and welcome to Be Kind Connects. I'm your host, Shabnam Islam. And today I have two very special guests. Joining us are James and Dahlia Marin, founders of Married to Health. Now, James and Dahlia are the plant-based power couple. Both registered dietitians providing plant-based integrative medical nutrition therapy and are leaders in nutrition intervention. And we are so excited to have you both on our show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What a great intro. Thank you so much.
Well, you guys deserve quite an intro. And I've been following both of you for quite some time. And so what I'd really like to start talking about is the beginning. Like, you guys are college sweethearts, right? You went to the same nutrition dietetics program.
Yes.
Can we talk about how you found love through nutrition?
It is. I mean, I usually let Dahlia start, but I have to say, it's important that it's understanding that also through our growth and even the hard times, because I always like to clear up any misconceptions. Like, when you find your soulmate, a lot of people think, oh, it's rainbows and butterflies, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, but it's also putting in the hard work. So I also like to give the perspective of when we met, we were putting in the hard work, we were learning, we were going through our own health journeys. And we found each other, and really, I think what makes our relationships successful is that we both have a growth mindset. We're always looking to make each other better, and we didn't know it back then, just how far it would go. But I think that's really what the spark was that hit for both of us. But then I'll let Dahlia take all the other details and answer the other questions. But yeah.
Well, quite the intro into the story. But yeah, we met 14 years ago. We were both studying nutrition. And for both of us, it was actually a second topic that we were studying. I started out in college several years prior to that as a psychology background. James started out as physical therapy.
Yeah, and kinesiology.
Yes, we both knew, okay, these are interesting fields, but we were both gravitating towards nutrition because of what we were seeing in others and what we were seeing in ourselves. We both were on our own respective health journeys as well at the time. And so for myself, as I had just been diagnosed a few years prior to meeting James with several different conditions, all simultaneously in the same day, I was diagnosed with high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, prediabetes. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune thyroid condition called Hashimoto's, and I was sent on my way with my 3 prescriptions and was kind of just told, all right, well, this is your life, and if you ever want to conceive, you'll have to take more medication. And no one mentioned anything about nutrition or lifestyle change. So I just wanted to learn about it on my own, knowing that, okay, I get it. Sometimes you do need to take medication. And I also understood, I looked around, I saw other family members and people who we knew who were living that lifestyle. And I didn't want to live that way. I wanted to have energy. I was young. I wanted to have vitality. I wanted to thrive. And so I just started learning about nutrition in general. And I started making changes in my own life. And people started asking, what are you doing? You're looking healthier. You're looking stronger. And then I just wanted to learn more and more and more about it. So I knew I want to study nutrition. And that really is where our paths kind of converge. And we both started becoming interested in learning more about our food system, because we were like, well, we both understand we were a product of a food system and unhealthy coping skills. We both had our own eclectic backgrounds and upbringings. I think for both of us, stress eating and mindlessly eating was a coping technique that we had both grown with. And we were recognizing that. So we wanted to learn more about what is the psychology of eating? Where does this food come from? What is the system that is producing this
food?
We
were like, yeah.
And as we're learning that, it just takes us further down this rabbit hole of whole foods. And all signs kept pointing back to whole foods and then whole plant foods. And it was after really watching Food Inc., really reading The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, then finding the China study that we were like, I think there's something to this whole food, plant-based nutrition and focusing on plants and really using plants and all of their compounds to thrive and to try to reverse some of this unnecessary disease that we had and that so many other Americans and those globally are walking around with.
Absolutely. What a great open. I mean, you guys must have loved that, didn't you, Be Kind community? But I think the important thing is, and I love that, James, I'm a professor of kinesiology, and Dahlia, I love how you talk about the psychology of behavior change, because that's what it really comes down to in terms of food as medicine. But here's the thing, as all of us that have been in higher education, and for those of you that don't know why you should get a registered dietitian over a nutritionist, is because a registered dietitian has done 4 years of schooling. They've sat for board certified exams, and their clinical education is very heavy in biochemistry, which is why they have a heavy understanding in nutrition. So RD over nutritionist any day, FYI. But what I also want to say here is, how was the medical the nutrition education? Like, oftentimes when I've seen a lot of registered dietitians, we don't see them following the right type of food system protocol, methodology in eating. And I've seen a lot of overweight dietitians. And how did you combat that type of knowledge you were getting outside with what you were getting in your educational practice?
We always say we were the total oddballs in college. Like we were against the current, whatever you want to call it, the odd people out, and that's how it was. And thankfully we had the confidence, and I don't know where that confidence came from. I think us meeting early on, we gave each other confidence and we're able to be like a team. We were friends and became really good friends before dating and anything happened. But, she was my friend. She was in all my classes. We had like minds. And of course, that's why we fell in love. We're like, oh, I like you a lot. And now I love you a lot. Right. And so, but with that, it really helped us to be like, does anyone else not see this, not see where the funding's coming from, whether it's the dairy industry or the beef council. And we early on started looking at the studies and then looking at who's funding the studies and who's funding the conferences and who's funding the guest speaker in our department clubs and in our books and so we were very aware early on, where I remember we were working for a nonprofit, we were volunteering for a nonprofit, and we even put up the first tent to like label GMOs. That was Prop 36 in California. That was like 2011. Like early on. So not only were we aware of like plants and humane treatment of animals and what's going on in our food system and all of the above, but also genetically modified organisms and just that basically that transparency, right? So it's not that, okay, let's hate all genetically modified organisms. It's more of, you have a right to know what's in your food, how's your food produced, who's funding this education about your food. So basically like full transparency, we've always been about since day one. So,
and we were these oddballs because other people would look at us like, who cares, you guys? All foods fit, and
yeah.
At the same time, and on the other side of the coin, we're learning medical nutrition therapy. So it's very quantitative and not very qualitative, the way that we're educated traditionally. And, we graduated 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. So things might have been updated since then. But when we were in school, it was all about carb counting. The diabetics need this many grams of carb per meal, and that's it. Who cares about the quality of what they're eating? Who cares about insulin resistance? It doesn't matter. This is the number of carbs they should have. That's it. If somebody has cardiovascular disease, you have them count their grams of fat. It doesn't matter the quality of the fat. It doesn't matter what they're eating. Who cares? Just have them count these different things. All foods fit. And we were like, but I think quality matters. And there's a lot of data and evidence to show that. And also, I don't think that we're heavily emphasizing plants enough. At the time, like, we're so old. There was a food pyramid when we started our education in nutrition, and that's what we're learning. So we're like, how come plants aren't at the bottom? Why is it grains that are at the bottom of the food pyramid? And where are the fruits even mixed into those carbohydrates? So we started asking questions, and when they updated it to the plate, we were like, why is dairy the only suggested beverage that's part of this plate? And everyone else was like, you guys shut up. James and I really felt like, okay, we have these questions and we want to learn more answers. So, that's...
And I have to comment on even just the protocols for digestive disorders. Like back then, the gut microbiome was not talked about. Back then, you're hearing terms like a low residue diet, which essentially means a low fiber diet. So take a population that's already on a low fiber diet, which is causing disease, and then give them an even lower fiber diet. and that's supposed to help the disease. And it's like, this doesn't make sense, right? So there were some great things, don't get us wrong, that we got from our schooling, advanced nutrient metabolism and biochemistry, and understanding these pathways, right? Yeah, physiology and research methods. Wonderful. But there were some gaps that we then had to fill in ourselves, for sure.
Absolutely. And this is exactly why we need more plant-forward, friendly medical practitioners such as yourselves, because the evidence is there, and it's unfounded. And what, Dahlia, I love that you already said this, these three magical words: integrated, medical, nutritional. I'm going to add in therapy. Sorry. So tell us a little bit more about your processes, the services that you offer through Married to Health, because I think people are concerned. They go, okay, do I only need this integrated medical nutrition therapy if I'm currently living with disease? Is this for everyone?
Right.
Yeah. So we, again, have always kind of seen things differently. So we knew we always wanted to have our own private practice, and we knew we wanted to have integration in our practice, because there are so many incredible impacts that Western medicine has had, and some incredible tools that you can pull from there. There's so much wisdom from ancient medicine and from cultural medicine, from Eastern medicine, complementary and alternative therapies. And so we just wanted to know about all of them so we could really help people pick and choose when things are appropriate, right? For certain conditions, I'm not going to tell a type 1 diabetic not to take insulin. They will die, right? In certain conditions, you want to use that allopathic medicine. It is there for a reason. And you also want to teach people, okay, let's have you become more insulin sensitive if you are type 1 diabetic. Let's try to reduce your saturated fat intake. Let's try to have you better tolerate the carbohydrates that you're eating. So we really tried to use these different modalities. We will say, okay, talk to your care team. You feel hesitant about going on metformin. Talk to your care team and ask them if berberine is an appropriate route for you, because that also can have blood sugar lowering effects. So myself and the 6 other dietitians on our team, all of whom have a respective specialty, all kind of see things from this perspective. And we have such incredible dietitians. I feel like I truly believe in that corny phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe, but I feel like we've attracted the most incredible dietitians who are so passionate and each have their own area of passion and area of specialty. So I specialize in irritable bowel syndrome, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is a subtype of IBS, and fungal overgrowth. I also love working with autoimmune patients since I'm one myself. We have other dietitians on our team who work specifically with those who have been diagnosed or want to prevent metabolic disease. So if you recognize the family history of cardiovascular disease or diabetes, and I do not want that, let me preventively learn information about it. We have dietitians for that. We have an oncology dietitian who's currently acquiring her PhD in nutrition as well, who's amazing. We have a dietitian who received her certification in neo-emotional release to help people really find an alternate option if they felt like, I'm doing talk therapy, I don't feel like it's getting me to where I want to be. I still have emotional eating, or I still feel like my nervous system and my emotions are affecting my gut. We have an incredible dietitian who helps with neo-emotional release. So we all really see things from a similar perspective of so much respect for all types of these interventions. We try to educate ourselves in all of them so that way we can help people prevent or try to reverse, mitigate, or put things into remission. Wherever somebody is, we really want to be able to support them.
And then to add on, we have a dietitian who specializes in plant-based families. So for those families who are like, I want to have a plant-based pregnancy like Dahlia did, or I want to have my family eat more plants, to wherever on the spectrum are 100% or even 90%, you're just starting out, right? We have Damaris who specializes in that, and she's amazing. And it really speaks to this idea of integrative. The definition of integrative is taking things that seem separate and realizing they're connected, right? And that is our entire universe, from the soil to the animals to us. We're all connected in this intricate way. And really, that's why we love the gut microbiome, because the medium in which we're all connected are microbes. The microbes I'm exhaling and inhaling were the microbes that came from the soil that the worm and the bird were just playing in, right? So it's really all connected by this invisible medium we call the microbiome, and it connects us all. So it's beautiful. We really embrace that in our practice.
And I think what you guys truly show and you embrace in your practice is the sense of camaraderie and teamwork and community. And you really attribute your success to this. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And for those of you that are wondering and you want to visit James, Dahlia, Marin, you totally can. And they also accept insurance for some of their services, right? So what? You guys are amazing.
Insurance is hard work. I'll say that.
I know. That's
it's
like
a love hate.
It's a full-time job in itself, is it not?
We have a full-time team.
We have
actually.
We have billers and everything, and it's like there's times like, why are we taking insurance? But we want to make this available.
Provide access.
Because the key is accessibility, and that is inclusion at its finest, particularly in terms of nutrition and dietetics intervention. And Dahlia, I'd love to talk about this because you brought up your own experience with the autoimmune disorder of like having polycystic ovarian syndrome. But what about the use of plant-based nutrition can tackle things like Hashimoto's or lupus or celiac disease or Crohn's? Like, really? Nutrition? People are probably looking at you kind of perplexed, but what is the science behind this?
So really with autoimmune disease, and all disease, right? We've all heard all disease roots in the gut, and autoimmune disease is no exception to this. Even there are some very strong studies and there's some very strong data to show intestinal hyperpermeability, aka leaky gut, is a compound of autoimmune conditions where there's immune overactivation and the immune system becomes overzealous and it becomes over-triggered by things that shouldn't be there, usually that are leaking out of the gut now into the bloodstream. And the immune system is like, hey, what the heck is this? Let me go on attack. And sometimes it can cause the immune system to kind of go rogue. This, yes, can often be triggered by leaky gut, and in most cases it is. Sometimes this can be after a viral illness. So they have done studies that have shown certain autoimmune diseases are triggered by inflammatory viral illnesses. But we do know that just as the immune system can be so hyperactive and activated by something, you can also quelch that with different plant compounds, antioxidants, phytonutrients, different plant extracts. So we try to incorporate this in our practice. I've incorporated this in my own health, where I've been on my own health journey and really trying to get my own autoimmune condition completely into remission. And I've worked with hundreds of patients, thousands probably over the years, who have autoimmune conditions as well, who we help along their journey. And we always say everybody's journey looks different, right? It looked different to get you there, so it might look different to get you out of it. I never overpromise, underdeliver, and tell people, oh, I have a 3-month protocol and you have raging autoimmune disease and I'm going to get you out of it in 3 months. That's not always the case. Sometimes I work with people for years and then we get them to a better place. But it's really understanding, what are the roots? How did this autoimmune disease spring up? Where is it growing from? Is it something mental, emotional? Is it something physical? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Is it gut? And can we optimize your gut health using these plant compounds? And I know in the last several years, there have been so many, we call them doctor dietitians, because it's like these doctors who come out and they make these outlandish nutrition claims who say, oh, plants, you should not eat plants if you want to heal autoimmune conditions. You should go paleo. You should do autoimmune paleo. And plants have, oxalates and lectins and, all these things should be avoided. And, really are selling people on these interesting diets, ways of eating, and then a bunch of supplements to help them get better. But what we have seen in very strong data is blue zones, populations who eat the highest amount of lectins and oxalates and plants, they have lower incidence of chronic disease, of autoimmune disease. We have done studies that have shown that actually eating lectins can lower your inflammatory markers. And this was even a crossover study that was done in a small group of people that showed those who were eating beans that have lectins in them, which is a carbohydrate binding protein, they had lower inflammatory markers than those who are not eating the beans. And so we just help people to really understand what is factual and evidence-based and what is not, and what's just trying to sell you on, anti-lectin pills or any of these sensationalized diets.
And I have to add to that because the evidence is becoming, I mean, just overwhelming at this point. Like any practitioner, I mean, just paying attention can see this. I mean, everything from randomized control trials to like observational, great retrospective observational study done recently on the US military is really even honing in on the fact that, I mean, well, there's other studies showing, I mean, just increasing a 10-gram fiber a day serving decreases your risk of all-cause mortality by 10%. So, I mean, we're seeing these linkages with fiber and risk of death. We're even getting more fine-tuned with IBS and IBD, the IBS and IBD connection. So when we're talking about autoimmune, it's very important to understand these IBS symptoms, which can be gas and bloating, constipation, diarrhea, can evolve into an autoimmune condition, going then crossing the line into IBD, inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you mean this constipation I've had for a couple of years that turned into a couple of decades is now putting me at risk for inflammatory bowel disease? And the answer is yes, right? We're seeing about an 800% increase if you're having these symptoms, and an 1800% increase if you've already been diagnosed with IBS. So if you have IBS, you're at a 1800% increased risk of Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, which means you are activating an autoimmune condition within your GI tract, right? So it's alarming data out there if you're paying attention and going like, this can all be avoided. And it's like, yeah, pretty much like 96% of it can be avoided with lifestyle, including diet and other great things. So yeah.
So then what do you have to say for the food that we feed our sick, particularly in hospitals, right? We have to intrinsically change the system to ensure that we are not keeping people ill. It's like a cyclical machine, right? And so
I'm so passionate about this. You're really like, I could do it. Do you have like 2 hours to just keep going with it? But it's, man, that is a Pandora's box. But I would just say for everyone listening, the number one thing you can do is literally start with your inner ecosystem. We are trying to spread this message out there that you have a beautiful, unique, and vital ecosystem, and it's called the gut microbiome. And if you love your local park or the Amazon rainforest or the Great Barrier Reef or any of these big ecosystems that I think we all agree need saving, the very first ecosystem you should save should be right inside of you. That has the power more than, I would even argue more than if you planted 100 trees in your neighborhood. What you are doing in your gut microbiome will shape the food systems. It'll shape what we're buying and what companies are lobbying governments and entities, because you are voting with the dollar. Never before have we, these human creatures, been able to shape and morph our environment. And so that happens by literally what we're buying to put in our bodies, right? If you are choosing to buy factory farmed animal products, you will get more factory farms and water contamination and air pollution. If you're choosing, right, and the same as if you are plant-based, but you're buying a lot of these exported, fancy, exotic plant-based ingredients, and they're being grown in South America, and they're clear-cutting forests to grow certain things, and then you're purchasing that, right? So in the same way, it's being conscious and understanding what is the best thing I can do for my inner ecosystem, because that will have drastic impacts that we cannot even comprehend. So it starts there. I mean, you are it. You are powerful.
You're preventing that hospital visit that you possibly would have needed. I worked in a hospital for a few years when I first started out as a dietitian, and it was shocking. It was honestly very shocking. One, a lot of people don't know the hospital cafeteria is the #1 revenue generator for the hospital. Right. So they're going to purchase the cheapest ingredients. Everything's coming from these large manufacturers. Everything's coming from, Cisco or UNFI or, all these different food manufacturers. Everything's in bulk. You go to the cafeterias in the hospital, nothing's very healthy. I remember when I was there, I was really pushing that, hey, if we're pushing Ensure on patients, which we shouldn't be, can we at least have a dairy-free version to offer, for patients who are plant-based? we shouldn't be feeding them fries and salad. Why don't we have Amy's frozen meals for them at the very least? But yeah, I think people really are underinformed with where their food is coming from, with how their food choices are impacting the system at large. And then I think relying on others to do it for them. I think people are often very upset, like, oh, the food at schools and hospitals is so terrible. Well, start changing your food, one meal at a time. If you have the resources and you have the opportunities, don't buy into it. Don't have your kids get school food. If you can pack them lunch and you have the time and the energy and the resources, pack them lunch. And then, this whole school food service system is not getting paid as much. They get paid per child who aspires to eat from them. And, the school food system is one of the top places that some of this government subsidized food surplus goes. Like when there's a surplus of cheese, the school food service system is one of the first places it goes. And they'll tell them, hey, try to stuff this cheese into all the possible meals you can. And then you'll look at the menu and it's like mac and cheese and cheese stuffed bread and cheese this, cheese that, cheese that. Because it's super discounted. It's cheap for the schools. And again, then every kid who picks up a school lunch, the school gets paid for. I know people were celebrating the win, and I totally get it for inclusion and accessibility. People were celebrating that California is now offering free lunch to students, which is wonderful for those who need it. And I think it's also really important for parents to look at the menu. And just assess, like, it's free, but what will it cost you?
Because it's now our taxpayer dollars going to pay these huge dairy manufacturers and processed meat manufacturers to then feed our children. And it's like, is that an actual win? It's like, great, free lunch. And don't get me wrong, that's needed in many communities. But then what is this we're just kind of kicking the can down the road, so to speak. And yeah, so this is a rabbit hole, but
let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen, nothing in life is for free. Nothing in life is for free. You will pay that ticket at some point or the other, but your debt will be owed. So let's lead with a plant-based thought. So this is where I really kind of want to, because I love that you were talking about the internal ecosystem, and you're talking about your food is your dollar is your vote. I say that to my students all the time. So how, as a registered dietitian, what specific 3 strategies could you provide to those who are actually really trying to commit to a more plant-based lifestyle that you feel like are key takeaways that they can walk away from today's interview and be like, I can do that?
I have one. Do you? Okay, so I'll start. One big one is we would say add. So that's I think a lot of people think I need to take away. I can't eat this and I can't eat that. Start with adding, right? If you are eating, because I ate tons of animal products before I became aware and I started making changes, right? So it's like
no neck when I met.
I was the guy eating chicken breast and 300 grams of protein, right?
Protein breath.
Like protein breath, and it was ridiculous. And I had, anyway, that's a whole nother story.
No, that's a whole nother story, because I'd be like, oh, you have man boobs, but not from eating too much soy. So there we go, a whole nother story.
No soy there.
But okay, add.
Yeah. So yeah, add. So if you're eating whatever you're eating, right, add some greens to it, add your favorite veggie, add fruit and other vegetables and nuts, seeds, beans. I mean, there's over 50,000 edible plant varieties. You can't say the same in animal varieties, right? So it's like there's so many more plants to eat. Out of the 700,000 known plant species, we can eat so many of them. So add.
I will say number 2, upgrade. Slowly but surely start making upgrades in these everyday products that you're purchasing. Start comparing labels. Work with a dietitian if you want to learn how to read labels to say, okay, which of these 2 breads is going to provide more fiber, more protein, more minerals and nutrients. Just start slowly swapping things out in your pantry, in your refrigerator, in your freezer. So little by little, you're starting to see these micro shifts in your diet, hopefully in your energy, in your health, your vitality. But making those very slow upgrades can be helpful.
And then as a third one, I mean, what came to mind is support, right? So whether you're supporting your local farmers market, whether you are supporting something in your school that's like, maybe there's a PTSA or PTA that's like, we've had enough of the school nutrition. Or recently, my daughter's school reached out to me to help them with the breakfast program. And I was like, yeah, let me see what I can do, right? So maybe you start with like a breakfast program or a snack program or an after school snack program. It's just supporting, or again, it's your local farmers market, right? So again, where you're spending that dollar and who you can support with that dollar in your local community is really important.
And I want to give a bonus one, because I think this is really important, is to go at your pace. Because I think people really fall into, I tried to go plant-based, but I was so bloated and I couldn't tolerate it, because they go cold turkey. It's like from night to day, they're like, okay, I'm vegan now, but I feel awful, right? Because I didn't really learn about plant proteins before I made this transition. I'm eating the same 4 vegetables. I'm not supplementing appropriately with BD and omega-3. So I think go at your pace, learn along the way, make those slow but sure changes, and then you'll probably find, oh, okay, I used to only be able to eat 2 tablespoons of beans, and now I can eat that full serving of half a cup. Or I'm really starting to feel great about this different variety of plant foods that I'm eating. So I think if you need to, take that time and go low, go slow until you can go at full speed.
Wow. Dropping knowledge bombs and nuggets of gold left and right. I love you two so much. But you know what? I think what our VKind community wants to know is, where can they see you speak or see you live this year? I know that you're both on the 2023 Food Revolution Summit, which I already purchased. So I've been viewing that. But where can people come see you guys?
Yeah, shout out to, I guess, where we're going to be. Yeah, Food Revolution Summit. Also, Darren Oline is putting on a great 1-to-1 tribe, what you guys can check out, which is another great spot we'll be speaking. Also,
be part of Dr. B's fiber fueled class. So
Gut Health Masterclass.
Yes, the Gut Health Masterclass, Plant Fed Posse. But all of this, if you want to learn about any of these places we are, because we never even know where we're going to pop up, you can go to marytohealth.com.
Yeah.
People can subscribe to our newsletter, and then they're the first to know about all of our new recipes, all of our new ventures, our new dietitians, new places that will be. So marytohealth.com is our hub. We can be found on all social platforms. YouTube and Instagram are 2 of our favorite ones, but marytohealth.com is our hub. It's our home, and it's where they can find information about anything we have going on, free blogs, free recipes, and if they want to make an appointment, it can be made there.
Wow. Well, thank you so very much, you two. I swear we probably could have talked for, like, as James said, 2.5 more hours about just one topic alone. But, you guys are amazing. And that wraps up this edition of VKind Connects with the incredible James and Dahlia Marin. To learn more about their nutrition services and programs to help you add, upgrade, support your new lifestyle, and of course, to go at your own pace, go to www.marriedtohealth.com. And thanks for tuning into this episode of VKind Connects, and we really look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.